Welcome to the number one friendship podcast in the country. I'm Matt Ritter.
I'm Aaron Karo.
Guys, check out manoftheyearpodcast.com. Buy tickets to our live shows, get our merch. You can check us out on YouTube. We do some fun stuff there, some community polls. Karo, I've got a bone to pick, as you always say.
A pick with me?
No, with the dental industry.
Okay.
I went in for an appointment recently, and of course, they tried to do the hard X-ray upsell. I'm never getting X-rays. I repeat, I'm never getting dental X-rays. Every time I go in, it's like, oh, we do actually need your X-rays. It's been a while. I go, nope, just do the teeth cleaning. Next time I come in, they're like, it's really, really been a long time since we've done the X-ray. Nope, just do the teeth cleaning. Then last time they go, look, it's been 2 years. Our insurance won't cover you if you don't do the X-rays. I'm like, oh, well, it's been a great run, guys. It's been a great run. I will go 1 year and 364 days from dental practice to dental practice. I will die never having these teeth X-rayed. You know what else I will die with? My impacted wisdom teeth. You know what you're getting from me? You're getting $125 every 6 months. That's what you're getting, dental industry. You're going to have to deal with it.
That's hilarious. I don't know the answer, but have you Googled, like, do I need this?
No, I'm just going with my gut, Karo. I don't need this.
I think it's a scam.
Listen, I don't like X-rays to begin with. They're always putting like, they put like a huge protective shield on your balls. Like, hey, where's your protective shield, guys? What's going on here? Is there no protective shield in the dental office?
It's so funny you say that, because literally last week, like 5 days ago, I got my elbow X-rayed, and he put the cod piece on me.
Yeah. So they never do that in the dental office. Like, how come you don't have a cod piece in here, dentist?
Well, it's shooting directly into your mouth, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if it's bad enough for your pee-pee, it's probably not good for your throat, for your esophagus.
I do get a lot of X-rays, and every time I go, what? I just had them. They go, no, you got to. So you think it's a whole scam?
Absolutely. And now I'm realizing the insurance industry is the one that's driving it.
So I don't want to cause even more waves, but I read something that dentistry as a whole is a scam.
I don't know if I want to go that down. I don't know if I want to get black pilled or whatever they call it.
And there's no, I don't know. I have to look it up, but there's no proof that anything we do does anything.
Well, I'll say this in defense of dentists.
Okay.
Imagine never brushing your teeth or never getting plaque removed from your teeth. You've seen the effects of people who don't do that. Like they're missing teeth.
That's true.
Imagine just eating sugar unfettered for your life. Like people missing teeth, holes in their teeth, like that I don't buy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm gonna back up and say I defend the dentist for doing their job, but I think the hard push to upsell. I think wisdom teeth removal is a scam. That's my big one.
This Esquire article says dentistry is absurd. My teeth will never be good enough for my dentist.
No, that's true. They'll never be good enough for them. My numbers, they do the numbers of like the gums where they are. They're like, oh, they're too low. Your gums are too low. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want your teeth to fall out. I'm like, I'm 45. I'm good.
Because once they go wrong, you can't get that back.
Right. No, I know. I bet you they'll figure something out with like stem cells to regenerate your little gums.
Yeah, probably stem cells into the gums. Yeah, dental X-rays. That's a good rant. I like that.
Yeah, it needed to be said.
Do you floss? Matthew.
Of course not.
That's disgusting.
I have an automatic toothbrush.
So do I.
And I occasionally floss when I've had like steak or something that I know is stuck in my teeth. It's just too hard to keep up the consistency of it. Listen, let's do a poll for our listeners. How many of you actually floss? Like, I'm not talking about 3 days after you got back from the dentist and they make you feel like shit. I'm talking about after that.
I mean, I floss twice a day, every day.
Wow. Of course you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I don't even want to get into the floss. That's a whole other episode, but I did want to talk about bringing it back to friendship. One of the most famous stories that you tell when we are talking about the podcast, pitching the podcast, is that which is that you had drinks with one of your buddies. You came home and your wife was like, "Oh, how's his job? How's his wife? How's his kids?" And you said,
"Don't know, didn't ask." The
and
classic. I should get a T-shirt. Don't know, didn't ask.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
How's your buddy? And obviously, you and I have. When we talk about people, this is like such a common refrain.
Yeah.
I actually had a conversation about it yesterday, which is that guys have no idea what's going on in other guys' lives because they don't ask, they don't care, they think it's weird, they think it's invasive.
Yeah.
So I wanted to run a few things by you, and then we can talk about it. One is that someone on TikTok is doing this thing called the Wednesday Waffle, where him and his three friends. What do you say?
I said, which we love,
which is him and his three friends. Every Wednesday, they send each other a 60-second video via text of like an update on the kids and the wife and everything. Number two, you and I have talked about agendas, which is that you're going to hang out with somebody, write down what you want to talk about. And number three, I just wanted to ask you just generally overall, like, why don't guys share and why don't they ask and why don't they know anything about their friends?
So let's start with the Wednesday Waffle.
Yeah.
I love it. I think everybody has their own version of how they communicate with their buddies. And I think part of our effort is to just install some sort of inorganic, consistent things, because we are trying to get you to admit, because I will fully admit that without it, men are just not going to do this well on their own. So I will say to our listeners, like, if this resonates with you, jump on this bandwagon of the Wednesday Waffle. If it's not going to work for you, don't try and make an every Wednesday video for your friends. That's like my initial reaction is like, you and I could do this, but I'm not sure this is for everybody.
I just want to give a credit to Zachary Perez, who's the TikTok influencer who came up with Wednesday Waffle.
Cool.
Let me back up to, I guess, my third question, which is, why is this even an issue? I know when you, and to your point, I know when I talk to you, hey, how's your kid? Like, what's going on? How's your mom? Like, it seems pretty organic for us. Like, why are other guys so bad at this?
Well, I think you answered it just now before, where you said some of it is like, it's awkward. It feels awkward. It's not actually awkward. It's not actually, but it feels awkward to a lot of people because it feels, what you said is just spot on. You said it feels intrusive. Men respect, a lot of men, not men, a lot of men try to respect these invisible boundaries, right? Yes. And there's like a certain privacy that they feel that they're entitled to, their space, their personal info, their income, their data, their health, there's a reason that like privacy is important to people, right? Because a lot of people do feel stay out of my business, right?
But it's not really privacy.
No, it is. I do think it is.
How's your kid doing?
I absolutely think that there's a lot of people that don't think it's anyone else's kind of business what goes on like in their household. I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of segment of the population that like when things are going not great with their kids, they don't want people to know about it. So I think there's some of that, right? There's a lot of men that I don't think you're giving credit that like, that's not how they live. They don't want people knowing their stuff. So they want to be, but there's other people that just think it's awkward and don't really know how to go beyond because they've never really socialized that way.
Wait, can I just press you on the first one a little bit more?
Yeah.
You're saying that there's a segment of population by the way, when things are going bad, that you're saying people are like, they don't want people to ask them about it?
I'm saying some people don't want people to know about it. And so I think part of like the way that manifests is like there's some segment that feel they shouldn't ask because they know their friend is built in that way. So they're trying to respect the way their friend is built or has built themselves up. Even if we are trying to say as a pod, like, hey, we think there's some not healthy things that you've built up.
Well, I think we need to disband with that even being within the realm of acceptable behavior, to not say, how's Linda? Because you think they don't want to talk about their wife. That's insane.
Yeah. No, listen, I mean, as I said, we don't subscribe to that, but you're asking me like, why is this happening? I think that's part of the reason. I'm just trying to like,
I think it's more the latter thing you were saying.
That they are feeling awkward and don't know how to do it and never really learned how to do it.
Yeah, and they feel like it's intrusive, even though it's not. Even though the guy wants you to ask about Linda, but you just feel weird because you're weird.
Right. And so I think we should start with creating a standard that people usually do want you to ask about how they're doing.
Thank you.
I agree with that. I'm saying I look, as I said, I'm just acknowledging that there's a certain segment that doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I think that they actually, I don't want to put, because to my ex-therapist thinks I put myself in people's shoes. I would assume husband of Linda, who no one asked about it. When they do ask about it, he would be like, "Oh, she's great. Thanks for asking." He would probably be happy.
Yeah. There's just certain people that are more private about that stuff and just feel like, don't want people in their business. I just think there's
Matt. I feel like this is one
there
of the,
is. No, because I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. Like I have friends and people who I know who like they don't want people asking about certain areas of their life. They don't feel that's like up for public discussion.
Matt, come on. You saying how's your kids is not intrusive.
Well, it is if you know there's something going on and they don't want to talk about it.
If your kid is, having, learning troubles at school and get thrown out or whatever. By the way, I think it's the opposite. If I know that your kid just got suspended, you think it's rude to say,
well, no, but my point is some people know that their friends or they think that their friend is that way and they're trying to respect those boundaries. And I think sometimes those boundaries exist for a reason. Some people don't really want you asking about that stuff. And I think you do have to respect that. But I think you're wrong. I don't think you are giving enough credit for not everybody really wants to share all that stuff. That's why the Wednesday Waffle is not going to work for all of our male listeners who just don't really want to they don't feel like they have anything to share every week about, what's going on in their life.
And listen, I'm going to step back a little bit because, sometimes as we're very different on work stuff.
Yeah.
I just kind of don't really talk about it. And you tell everybody everything that's ever happened to you in the past 24 hours.
Or how about your dating life? You're very private about that. You don't want people asking about that usually.
It's not that I don't like them asking about it. And I would tell them if they did.
No, you don't really like people asking about it. I'm going to call you out on that.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. But that's different than asking.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm saying my point is that knowing everybody has different things that they don't really want to talk about. So my point is part of the reason that people don't go below surface is that some of those people have put out to the world, I don't really want to talk about stuff below that surface.
Well, I guess if you've put it out in the world and that's fair. I just, again, I can't imagine there's people out there who you say, how's Linda doing? They're like, I don't want to talk about it.
I agree. Listen, I agree. You're using
unless they're getting divorced and Linda's fucking crazy.
Yeah, you're using a big extreme example, but yes.
Let's talk. Oh, sorry.
No.
I wanted to talk about it. I think you rightly said the Wednesday Waffle is not for everyone. What about agendas? So the original. This originally came when we first started the podcast. There's a woman on Twitter or X who posted a picture of her dad, who I think is, 50s, 60s. And he hand wrote a little list of things. He was getting together with his buddies at the bar, and a list, Monday Night Football, I don't know, whatever, things to talk about. And it went viral.
Yep.
And I've adopted that. I had drinks with Shane and our buddy Jeff a few weeks ago when we did a shared notes app, and we said what we wanted to talk about.
Beforehand.
Yeah.
How long before did you share it?
Probably 24 hours.
Interesting. I like it. So I like it. And then I wanted to hit you with this, which I was shocked by. So my wife has a women's networking group thing. Mm-hmm. And she started a few months back and it's been really successful. And last night they put together sandwiches for a women's shelter and they do all this really nice stuff together. They always have an activity. But the first time she also had an agenda. And this time she didn't have one. And I said, what's the agenda this time? And she goes, they didn't really want an agenda. So I'm just dropping that.
Really?
It turns out they just wanted to hang out. But I think part of that is the difference between men and women. You get a bunch of women together, you don't need an agenda.
Right. First of all, that's fascinating. I mean, I think to be fair, the agenda wasn't like, okay, Shane, now you go.
Yeah,
It was more like we're having beers. Oh,
right.
hey, like this a reminder.
Right. I think that's right. I think that, but that's my point. It's a I like that it's a reminder for men. That's what we're talking about. We sometimes need reminders, and
Yeah.
so I want to like drill down a little bit on the agenda thing. I think I love the agenda thing because it takes the pressure off. I think.
I think it's almost less about pressure and more that you don't freaking know what's going on. You just need things to talk about.
Yes, yes. But I'm saying, I think, a lot of times, like, you're sitting around and it's like, what are we going to talk about? Like,
Right.
it's like, okay, here you go. This is what you're talking. This is what you want to talk about. You're talking about what you actually want to talk about too.
Matt, I have a business idea. I don't know if it's a business idea. Maybe it's just like a service that we offer. What if we created weekly agendas that anybody
Mm,
could access?
Kiro, should we delete this from the pod?
Like
It's a good idea.
it's called, Friday Friends, and we
Yeah,
just do 5 sort of non-inflammatory topics.
it's good. It's good. My
Yeah.
buddy Dan, I think, has this calendar. I think it was a calendar, and each day has like a fun question to ask your partner or something.
I feel like Dan is a real apex. It's the same Dan.
Oh
He's
yeah,
a real
Apex
yeah,
friending. Yeah,
yeah. Very, very friendly,
yeah, he's
very
on our level. He's on our level. We should get
yeah.
shirts that say Apex friend too. That should be part of our merch. I just decided.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, by the way, guys, we have onesies in our store. So go to manofyourpodcast.com and grab onesies for your little one. Let's go back to this for a second. Should we take a listener question?
We must.
All right, we'll be right back. Okay, guys, this is asking for a friend. If you have a friendship question or ethical dilemma, send it to us on Instagram. We will answer it on the show. So, Matt, this one comes from Instagram. It's from Nick. It's a little long. I'm going to try to summarize a little bit. Hi, guys. I'm a young adult, and I've known this dude for 5 to 6 years. Grew up together, teenage years, laughed, went out together, shared concerns about growing up, our futures, everything that friends do. I know the struggles he's had, problems he's had in his family. I know his character. I really care for him, and I've tried to be a supportive friend. But I think I cannot be the kind of friend he wants me to be anymore, and he cannot be the friend I need. So I'm kind of heartbroken right now. I sometimes see glimpses of the vibe that comforts me, but most of the time I feel more drained after spending time with him. I don't want to cancel this person, but I've been thinking about turning our dial of closeness down a little bit lower and not committing as much of the friendship as I did. What do you think? Should I be worrying about this? Is this merely a moment of separation from my childhood and moving on into adulthood?
Great question. It hit like 7 different episodes of our podcast all in one.
Yeah.
And obviously, without knowing these people, it's so hard to say, hey, what's really going on? Could be that you are aging out of some of your high school friends. I mean, it sounds like you're changing and you guys are maybe drifting on a value basis, whatever it is, different directions, different phases of life. I always say there's seasons for friendship. And sometimes they come back, sometimes they're a little further out. I like what he just said about turning down the dial. We should steal that.
This struck me as what we call friend emeritus, which
I knew
is
Kiro was going to say that. That's you came up with that. I love that. Tell them what it is. I love that.
friend emeritus is a childhood friend or an old friend who you're no longer as close with, but they will always have a position in your life. They were important to you at the time and they just have standing, but they're not sort of actively super tight with them anymore. And that's okay.
Now, I have a question. I don't know if we ever went into this on the emeritus episode. Can you get back once you've been an emeritus? Do you ever come back or no?
I mean, I think to your point, seasons come back. I mean, Bob
Yeah,
Iger left Disney and then he was chairman emeritus and then he came back.
that's right. But he always knew he was coming back. He was like,
Yeah.
let me put somebody really bad in place and see how they like it.
I mean, that is the beauty of a friend emeritus is that they're still there.
Yeah. Yeah. You haven't cut them off. You haven't made it some sort of pronouncement like we're no longer friends, whatever. Like he said, it sounds like he already turned down the dial a little.
Well, let me ask you this.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I was just going to say, we also obviously don't know what the other person is thinking. I'm curious if you think this is a conversation under our rubric of friends are not mind readers. Maybe the other guy, there's something happened that he doesn't know about, or just let it be.
Yeah. So I have a couple of thoughts on that. One is usually when you feel a certain way about a friend, they know it. So like friends aren't mind readers, but also if you're giving off these signals and you're feeling this way, they probably sense it, you know? And
Really?
like to your point, yeah, I think so. If like you're at the point where you're so exhausted hanging out with that friend all the time, like maybe they're totally blacked out and lack self-awareness, which is your like number one pet peeve. And I get a lot of sad sacks in my life and they're draining. And I've tried to I've tried to turn that dial way down on them because I don't like that energy in my life. I always talk about that. Like I am a different phase of my life now. I'm like in super positive, trying to like bring joy to my son life. And I don't want like sad sacks. Like I got to shake it off after I hang out with them. You got to do like, and if you have a friend like that, that, by the way, that has nothing to do with how long you've known a friend, right? So there's a separate thing of like, we give more credence to our friends who have built up a lot of goodwill, right? But when we're taking stock of our friendships, right, I think you should really take stock of them in isolation of that a little bit, right? Because what you're talking about is like, you got to live now, right? You got to live in the now and you got to do what serves you now. So when you're looking at that friend, like you can't just be like, well, on the one hand, he's been my friend for 30 years and we've got a lot of goodwill. But on the other hand, every time I hang out with him, he drains me. Like, no, you have to take action if somebody drains you, whether you've known them for a year or 30 years.
I mean, he's got friendship sunk costs.
Yeah. Ooh, I like it. But that's why we invented emeritus.
Right. Exactly. Also, sounds like the other guy, not the question asker, is a bit of a friendship vampire. Yep. Someone who takes a lot. And again, we don't know what's going on. Also sounds like he's had maybe a bit of a rough childhood and who knows what's going on right now. But I think I want to say to Nick that what you're feeling is very, very common, very, very normal. I actually appreciate like Nick's ethos, which is that like that the fact that he even feels bad about this says a lot of good things about Nick, And
I agree, but I also think, the easiest first step is pulling back a little and seeing how that feels.
Right.
I mean, so if you're seeing this person all the time, like see them less regularly and see if that changes the dynamic. Like maybe, again, like what you said, they're not mind readers, but are you going to have a conversation with somebody being like, oh, you're so draining? Like doubtful.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I agree with you that in this case, like having that conversation is not warranted. And I don't know that we've talked about someone, I don't know how old they are, but this is pretty common growing. Like I would say like you and I, we friends in second grade. When we meet people out in the field, they don't really have high school and childhood friends that often.
No. I mean, it's rare, right? And maybe part of the reason it's rare is because a lot of people outgrow and change and move on and whatever, and it's like, it's a bit of a lift to keep it going.
Also, I don't know if this makes sense. People you meet in childhood or high school, you're just friends with them by proximity and luck.
Yep.
Where once you get to college, at least it's a slightly more values based.
Yeah. Or workplace, you share common interest-based friendships. I mean, those are, when they're rooted in something like that, it's easier. But so I think ultimately I'd say, look, turn on the dial. There's nothing wrong with turning down the dial at any point. It's your life. You have to do what's best for you first and foremost. But I think you should check in with yourself. If you were seeing that person every week and then you pull it back, like, does it feel easier? Is it better? Does that work better for you? Is it less draining when you spend time with that person? Or is that person still, the kind of, is it like, oh, this is really just not enjoyable to be around this person? Because then you got to ask yourself, do we need to cut the friendship vampire out of our life?
Right. And you know what I always say, that when people say, oh, Karo, like, what about when you have a friend and they don't like really make you feel good and you don't love hanging out with them? I go, I don't have anybody like that.
Right.
And I think that's a smart way to live.
Yeah. Yeah. But look, it's hard, lifelong
Yes.
bonds, you just to be like, oh, I'm not going to hang out with this person anymore because, they're a bit of a downer.
Well, he's turning
And
down the dial. I like it.
yeah,
He's turning down the
turn on the
sack.
dial, and friendships change and people change, and maybe you need to, give him time, and maybe he needs to, kind of get to where you are. Everybody kind of grows up at a different pace too. We all have those friends that took a little longer. I don't know. I might be one of them to grow up a little bit, it's,
Mhm.
that's the truth. And so, if you're in a different phase, then maybe he'll meet you at your phase in a couple of years and you guys will come back and be thick as thieves.
I love it. I love it. Nick, thank you for the question. And please send us an update and how you're feeling. Guys, this was asking for a friend. If you have a friendship question, send it to us on Instagram, Man of the Year Podcast. We'll answer it on the show. Matt, before we go, I just want to ask one more agenda, Wednesday waffle thing. Are there any sort of tips/hacks of questions that are sort of evergreen that when you're with your boys that could get a little bit more info out them without being intrusive or awkward?
Yeah. So you're saying, like, what can you ask them that we can get beyond surface that'll always work?
Right. If you don't want to say, how's your wife? How's the kids? Is it like, can you just say, how's it going? Can you
I
be like,
think I like the, what do you got going on that you're excited about in the near future?
that's not bad.
Because that could encompass travel, a concert, whatever. My team's in town playing, or my kid's in a new soccer league. And I think that opens it up for something positive, something they
Mm-hmm.
feel good about. I think that's a good one. What do you got?
Sometimes I'll say, any trips coming up?
Right. Right.
Now, someone could not have any trips coming up, but usually someone's got a work trip, a wedding.
I like mine better.
What about sometimes I ask, like, this is a little niche. Like, I'm gonna see my cousin soon, and he's just started law school. And it's one of those things where, like, everybody he sees is like, how's school? How's school? And it's like pretty annoying.
Where's he going, by the way?
He's Hafshalah.
Mm.
So I was gonna ask, what's the most surprising thing you've noticed or that's happened?
That's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
I like that. That's because that makes you think, like really do a little introspection. That's good. That's a good question. What's another good one for the automatically elicit a good response for a hangout with your buddies?
So this is when someone goes on a trip. Like I went to Italy recently. Again, you're telling the same story over and over.
Yeah.
And sometimes be like, oh, what are the highlights? Any one particular thing?
That's good.
You know,
That's good. Any one particular thing that stood out on your trip?
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Those are a couple good ones.
Matt, what did we learn today?
I think, again, I'm going to go back to men need non-organic little help. They need a little help, right?
A little push.
A little push, right? So I think an agenda is something that can go on your list. The Wednesday waffle can go on your list. Again, I want to pull back and say every episode, all we're trying to do is just give you like one thing that might be useful to improve your social fitness. And I hope that, people have been listening to us, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 years. I'd love to hear from you. What are you implementing? Because, we say this stuff and the people message us and they tell us this worked. I tried this. I love hearing that. I love hearing what are you doing based on what we just talked about and how is that going? So I want to know if after this episode, tell us if you've done the Wednesday waffle or tell us if you started doing agendas. I didn't know that you just did an agenda with Jeff and Shane. I now want to try to my next hang. I got to figure out who I'm going to do that with.
Yeah. So you know how to, because I know you're some of it a Luddite, you know how to do a shared note, right?
No.
But you know how to use the notes app.
Well, apparently not.
Yeah. So you just write a bullet point there and you hit send and then it sends it to me and then I could do it on text.
Wait, say that again.
Sorry, that was confusing. Gosh. You share it to me, it sends me a text. And now I have your note on my phone and I can add to it. It's pretty easy. Even you could figure it out.
Oh, so if you share a note in text, they are in it.
Exactly.
So people can edit your notes if you send it to them. That's not great always.
It's like a Google Doc.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I had one sort of last tip/hack. You know how one of our tenants is be the herald
Yes.
Which is if you find out one of your buddies, something happened, promotion, whatever, and he's too shy or feels weird about sharing it, you just share it in the group chat. Hey, I just found out, Matt got this gig, and then everyone chimes in. That's awesome, blah, blah. Just because if there's different levels of heraldry, that could help the agenda be, spread.
That's good. I like it.
Yeah, be the herald. All right, guys, that is our show. Thank you so much for listening. Let us know about your agenda ideas. And always remember, be good to yourself, be good to your friends. Love you, buddy.
Love you, buddy.